Hey, what's up guys? In this video, we'll be talking about the best ultra wide angle lens you can get on a budget. Welcome in guys. On this channel, we talk about the best landscape photography tips from the field you can get, as well as reviews on some of the best camera equipment for landscapes that you can get as well. Today we'll be reviewing one of those objects that you can get on a budget for creating amazing landscape photographs. Now, every landscape photographer knows that you need a wide angle lens. Wide angles just cover that huge scene potential that you can capture, huge foregrounds, amazing leading lines. These lenses are amazing for landscapes because it allows you to fit a ton of information into one frame. But the downside is a lot of those are really expensive. There are other options you can look into though, like the one we're going to be reviewing today, the ROKINON 12mm f2 ultra wide angle lens. This lens is the one that I actually use when I go out and shoot my landscape photographs because I don't like spending all that money on expensive lenses. I like to go down a little bit and get those lenses that are on a budget. Now this lens will range anywhere from $275 to $400 depending on where you get it. It's actually linked below in the video description if you want to go look. Also, all of my favorite lenses are linked below as well. But let's get into what makes this lens so great. Pros, cons, drawbacks, features that you can expect whenever you go out and buy this lens and then take it out in the field with you to shoot landscapes. So here's the little guy right here, the ROKINON 12mm f2. Super great lens and it's super wide. If you think about 12 millimeters, that is huge range that you can capture on the sides of your photographs. You can fit so much in with this lens whenever you go out and shooting. I've been able to capture some of the coolest foregrounds that I've ever seen in my own photography, and it really allowed me to step my game up with this wide angle lens. I was using like an 18mm before. The extra range you can get with this 12mm is astronomical. You can't fathom going from something like 18 to 12 or even 14mm to 12mm. This lens has the capability to capture super wide compositions that you can use to create those amazing landscape photographs, especially something like waterfalls or fitting huge foregrounds into a frame. Now, obviously this lens is also really compact, small size. If you can see it, I mean, even compared to my face, this thing is tiny. Now, I'm using mine with my Sony E-mount camera, my mirrorless camera, but you can also get them for every camera make. So the size is going to be very similar depending on what camera model that you're using. So you don't have to be surprised getting into the mail and receiving like this bulkier lens. They're all gonna be about this comparable in size. It's also really durable, made from like really strong aluminum framing. I really like how durable this lens is too. I always worry about lenses, especially like those entry-level lenses or budget lenses. You worry about the sides being kind of plasticky and you might think that they break a little more easily. But this one is super durable. I've actually been using it for like 2 years now. I haven't had any issues with it in durability, so I've been very pleased with it on that aspect as well. Another thing I really love about this lens is how smooth it is. It's really easy to exchange focal depth as well as change my aperture value. So you have 2 separate rings on this lens that allow you to do that. So you can exchange focus right here depending on whatever numerical is lining up. And you can just slide that up and down and it's really smooth. Like I said, I've been using this for 2 years, still is smooth on the focal ring as the day I got it. And I've been shooting in some harsh conditions, rain, sand, all sorts of conditions, humidity, you know, everything I would expect to harden up this slide on the focal distance hasn't happened yet. So I'm really, really pleased on that. And also the aperture ring has never been affected by any of the conditions that I shoot in. So all you have to do is line your aperture numerical up with this dot on the red ring, and you just slide it up and down and it automatically adjusts that aperture for you. All right guys, but I can't just harp on the benefits of this lens. What are some of the drawbacks that I see in this after using it for 2 years? And what might you be surprised at when you get it in the mail or take it out in the field? Number one, ROKINON makes fixed lenses. This means there is no zoom on this lens. It's not a big deal for me. You know, based on the price difference and savings that I get, I'm fine with moving my feet around in the field and getting different framing options that way versus a zoom lens. But there are situations in the field whenever I go out and shoot that I have said to myself, man, I really wish this lens would zoom a little bit further because I'm standing on a rock, like on the edge of an ocean. If I take another step, I might fall in, or I'm standing in a river and I can't go anywhere else. You know, that's one of the drawbacks and hesitations that you might have buying this lens, is that it's a fixed lens. But you know, some photographers really like fixed lenses. They think the image quality is better and they like that aspect of buying fixed lenses. So it's kind of a personal decision for you in that aspect. Another thing you might think about is this is a manual focus only lens. This is not an autofocus lens. Now, that's also not a huge drawback for me because a lot of times I take this lens out with me shooting at night with an aperture like f2. It captures amazing Milky Ways, amazing star shots, and I've been very pleased using this. Now, if you shoot at night at all, or if you've ever shot at night at all, you know, you want to use a manual focus. You want to use something that when you press the shutter, your camera's not looking for something to focus on. And that's why I love taking this lens out to shoot at night. And the manual focus honestly doesn't bother me. I also use something called peak focusing in my camera that highlights everything in focus in red. So it still doesn't bother me if I'm going out and shooting this with manual focus. But if you don't use peak focusing, or if you're not shooting at night a lot, you know, you might get kind of annoyed at the manual focus of this lens because it doesn't have the autofocus feature. And lastly, something I've noticed with this lens, shooting with it for 2 years, and especially shooting at night, since we've talked about that a little bit, is the focus to infinity mark is slightly off. Now, if you focus to infinity, you would assume that the dot would be placed on the closest mark to infinity possible. But what I've noticed with this lens is it kind of shoves it over to one side just slightly. Now that may not be a big issue to you, but if you're shooting at night and trying to get those pinpoint stars, it may be a big factor because that much focus difference may throw those stars out of focus. So that's one of the annoyances that I've had with this lens. But shooting with it so much, I know exactly where on the infinity mark that I need to change it to get those pinpoint focus points on my stars or on my infinity focus marks. So that's my review on the ROKINON 12mm f2 lens. Awesome lens for landscape photography. If you're looking to save some cash, I mean, this lens is gonna be it for you. Like I said, the links to all the camera makes are listed below in the video description. Check those out. If you're new here and if you've never seen this video before, consider subscribing to this channel.